Louisiana. I'm Chef John Folse, welcoming you to this great state of ours. These beautiful plantation homes reflect the fascinating history of our culture and cuisine, and I'd like to share this story with you. Why not join me and some of my friends as we visit the plantation homes of our state and cook up another great Taste of Louisiana?
Funding for this program was provided in part by Bruce Foods Corporation, makers of Louisiana Gold and other distinctive Louisiana-style food products. Additional funding is provided by the Louisiana Department of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism, Gumbo, Etouffee, Jambalaya, Beignet. Come pass a good time in Louisiana and say things you've never seen before.
One of the best things about living in Louisiana is being able to walk out on one of these great verandas, sit in a rocking chair, and enjoy a piece of freshly baked cake while viewing the scenery. It was on one such day back in 1824 that Mrs. Clark Woodruff, owner of the home, and her two young daughters, Sarah and Matilda, came out on this very veranda. They too were eating cake. The only difference was that their cake was laced with oleander poisoning, and within 2 days, the family was dead. Often visitors here to the home will see the two girls frolicking beneath the oaks, and if your imagination is vivid enough, you too may even get a glimpse of those girls today. I'm Chef John Folse. Welcome to the most haunted home in America, the Myrtles Plantation. The house gets its name from the hundreds of beautiful crepe myrtle trees that grow all over the property. The poisoning of Mrs. Woodruff and her daughters has been attributed to a woman slave who worked in the house as a cook. Some say that she was seeking revenge because her ear had been cut off as punishment for eavesdropping. This house was built sometime in the late 1700s, and one of the very interesting architectural features of the home is the wrought iron railing that wraps around the front porch. The grape leaf pattern that you see in this rail can be found throughout the house in many different decorative accents. Many adventurous guests come to the Myrtles to try to hear some of the stories of the previous owners, but much more so to try to see if they can get a sight of some of those ghostly apparitions. Did you see something there? I was able to talk to Teeta Moss about some of the stories that she had heard when buying the home. Teeta, the Myrtles Plantation has the reputation of being the most haunted house in all of America. To your knowledge, is it a fact?
Well, John, I can't promise you that it's fact, but I can certainly say that it's legend. We have stories that date way back. We have people who've sighted children playing on the lawn. We have people who send toys to little girls that they say they've seen in the windows upstairs. We have lots of people who send us pictures that have ghostly apparitions in them that they took while they were staying in the bed and breakfast. And look up in the chandelier. See, the medallion has the 4 nuns' faces? Those were put there to protect the corners of the rooms. That was in 1796 when the home was built. Look at the cherubs at the bottom of the chandelier. Superstitiousness about this home went on way back in the late 1700s when it was built. So if it's not fact, it sure is legend.
There are many other legends about the Myrtles as well, including some strange ones, like the owner of the home who was shot and ran down the staircase only to die in his wife's arms on the 17th step. Heartbroken, she spent the rest of her life upstairs because she refused to come down the staircase where her husband had died. People come from all over the world, from every country, to visit the Myrtles in hopes of sighting a little ghostly apparition. The ballroom at the Myrtle combines 2 rooms that, together with the veranda, provides a large space for entertaining. You can imagine just how lavish the parties must have been in this beautiful space. Just take a look at that room. The plasterwork in these rooms also repeat that great moselle grape leaf pattern that you see here. This beautiful dining room plays host to one of the most interesting tours at the Myrtles. Every Friday night, each one of these chairs are filled for the ghostly dinner tour. People can come in and sit and exchange their own ghostly stories or hope to get a sight of one of the ghostly apparitions of the Myrtles. I can tell you one thing, please don't try to get a seat here Halloween night. I sure wouldn't. Did I convince any of you skeptics that a trip to the Myrtles is necessary? Well, I sure hope so. Now, I want to share with you that this is the culprit. This is the flowering oleander leaves that were supposedly baked into that pound cake. Look how beautiful they are, but I'd keep them out of the kitchen if I were you. Now, we may, in just a little while, hear more about some of the ghost stories at the Myrtles because my guest today is the neighbor. Right down the street, Irv Daniel not only lives in a beautiful home himself, but he's one of the yam or sweet potato farmers of Louisiana, and there's a lot of potatoes grown in that area, and he's going to come and talk to us a little bit about that, as well as anything he may have seen while looking over the fences there. We're going to check him out in just a minute. One of the great things I think about visiting all of the plantations of Louisiana is studying the foods that were cooked then, because it was a lavish lifestyle, and some homes went way out to France, went out to Europe to find some great foods, while others just lived right off of the land. Well, the Myrtles, being a French Creole-style plantation, I have to tell you, they had some pretty exotic dishes. And if you look in my cutting board, on my cutting board, you can see one of those exotic dishes. This is the hen of the Pharaohs, and this is one of the favorite dishes at the Myrtles. This is Guinea Fowl. Now, if you don't know exactly what Guinea Fowl is, this is a bird that originated in Africa. It's in the chicken family, obviously, because it's a fowl. And the thing about it is that all of the plantations and many of the farmers kept guinea fowl because they would scream and almost bark. They were great watchdogs at night. The only thing about them is they were very hard to tame, and they would sleep in the top of the trees, and difficult if you wanted to harvest a couple of them to put on the table, but a great, great dish. The birds of the Pharaohs brought to Egypt and then sent out all over the world after 500 AD. So you can imagine how great a dish this would have been in Louisiana. Now, to cook guinea fowl, it's very simple, and you can find them, obviously, all over any specialty store. And, of course, you can also get them in the supermarkets. I see them all the time there. What I've done is to clean the inside of the guinea fowl, and I'm going to season with a little bit salt, some cracked black pepper down into the center of it, of course, a little granulated garlic, and I'm going to do that into both of these chickens. This one's already got some of my flavoring in. Now, I'm also going to stuff the center with one of these nice chopped onions. Leave the peel on. It doesn't really matter. Some carrots. The carrots are going to give a nice sweet flavor to the inside of the guinea hen. Some celery, and then, of course, garlic. Now, I like to put garlic in here. I was reading the other day that in garlic, most people considered, even as late as 1940, that garlic was a lot more of a medicine than it was a spice. Can you imagine that, with as much garlic as I like to use, only having it hanging around my neck as a medicine? Gee, I couldn't imagine that. Now, under the skin, I'm going to run my hand right under here because I'm going to season under the skin of the breast as well. And what I'm going to put under here is two great Louisiana flavors. I've got some sassafras leaves, which is what grows on the sassafras or root beer tree. This is what we make the gumbo filet out of. And this is the sage, of course, great in cooking any type of game hen. I'm going to stuff that right under the breast. Really, really wonderful flavor. And then continue to season the top of the bowl with the top of the bird with a little bit salt and a touch of pepper, just like that. Now, into my little roasting pan. I'm going to put this right into the blue roaster, and I can add a little bit oil to the top of the birds, which I'm going to do because that's going to keep them really nice and moist and assist in browning, because we definitely want these birds nice and golden brown. So I'm going to add a little bit of this buttery flavored oil right to the top. I can also put a little touch of paprika for color. I'll put a little pinch on top. And then for my spice, a little Louisiana pepper sauce right on top of that. Now, of course, I can come around with some yams or sweet potatoes, white potatoes, and beets all around the bottom. And all of this excess seasoning that didn't go into the center of the bird will work really well by putting it around the outside of the roasting pan. Now, this is going to go into about a 350 to 375 degree oven, and make sure you leave it uncovered, because this is going to be a French roasting technique where uncovered, the bird is going to get a very, very crispy skin, but at the same time, the inside will be really, really nice and juicy. If you think you want to cook it a little higher because you're in a rush, well, turn it to about 400 degrees, but put a lid on it for about the first 30 minutes, and you can actually cook this bird in almost about half the time. So experiment with it just a little bit, and I'm going to move this out of the way because I have one in the oven, and I'm going to show it to you in just a second. But I want to show you what I would accompany that great guinea hen recipe with. In Louisiana, we really believe in stuffings and dressings. And I know I told you already that the only difference between a stuffing and a dressing is, does it go inside of a bird or does it go inside of a bowl? Which one? If it's inside of a bird, obviously, it's a stuffing. But for some reason, I guess it's because of our German and French heritage down here, a lot of Spanish also, we believe in adding these accompanying dishes of rice and meat always with birds like this. Now, one of our best is what we like to refer to as dirty rice. You've heard us talk about our dirty rice in Louisiana. Well, it's not really dirty. It's the color of the rice once it's done. I'm going to add a little more of this buttery flavored oil to the bottom of my skillet, and then into that, I'm going to saute equal parts of beef and pork. You can see the pork is a lighter meat here, and this is the beef. And whenever we make dirty rice or stuffings, we always combine the two meats into the skillet because the pork will add all of that great flavor that we like in our dressings and stuffings and dirty rice, where the beef will hold its texture nicely. So we want to put it into the skillet and mash it really, really well like this. Just continue to mash the meat because we want to brown it. We want to combine the two meats, and obviously we want to separate it grain for grain. So we just continue to kind of move this around like this for a couple of minutes until it becomes golden brown, and then we can start to add our seasonings. I would say that you should allow this to cook for about 30 minutes before you actually try to add any seasonings. Additionally, you might want to pour out all of that excess fat because you know pork will make certain amounts of fats in the pan, and so will the beef. Not quite as much, but you will have fat in the bottom of the pan. So you can pour out all but about a tablespoon in this dish. Now, once this is cooked for about 30 minutes, I would add the rest of my seasonings. Now, I have one already done, you know that. So I'm going to move this saute pan here for you to look at. Look how pretty and golden brown this dish is. Look how nice, grain for grain, just as I told you it would be. Now, to season it, I would add all of my traditional Louisiana flavorings. I would put in my onions, obviously, my celery, have to put some of that nice celery in there, bell pepper, and I'm going to put about 3 different varieties because this dirty rice needs a lot of color, and you know I like color every now and then. Put some more of that yellow and red bell pepper. Of course, a nice spoon of garlic. This is no medicine to me. It's all spice. And just kind of stir that into the ground meat mixture here, beef and the pork. Look how juicy it is. And then at this point, I'm going to add 2 more very important flavors in our dirty rice. Very important. Now, some of you might not like this, and you can eliminate it, but I sure don't know why. I'm going to add about a half a cup of chopped chicken livers. Now, the chicken livers have already been cooked and chopped, and about a half a cup of chopped gizzards. Now, these have been boiled until very tender. I'm going to put them down into the dressing like this, and they're boiled until real tender, and then chopped so that they just kind of disappear into the meat mixture and give us more of a great flavor rather than anything else. We don't want anybody to really know they're in there other than the great flavor that they're going to give to the dish. Okay, at this point now I can season with a little salt in here, a little touch of pepper, and once that's done, then I can add my rice to it. Now, I have my rice already cooked, and I've rinsed it off. Fact is, you can cook this rice a day or so in advance, and it's all grain for grain, and you know the formula for good rice. 1.5 cups of water and a cup of rice, and bring it to a rolling boil, reduce the heat to simmer, and cook covered for 30 minutes. That's going to be perfect rice every time. So I'm going to stir the rice right into the meat. Now notice how much more meat there is in here than just rice. So I'll stir that in to blend it and dirty the rice. as we say. And once it's mixed, then I can go ahead and plate it up for my Pharaohs hens, my little Guinea Fowl. So let me get my platter. And look at this great Mason Vista platter. I love this platter. It's so beautiful and it's very rare. I'm going to put my rice right down onto it like this. How nice that is. And then I can get my Guinea Fowl right out of the oven. And you know what that's going to look like once I get it out here. Well, wait till you see these. Whew, talk about smell good. Oh, they're beautiful in golden brown. So nice a dish. Look at that, if you would. Now I'll just take them and right out of the pan and put them right on top of the dressing. Can you imagine that dish? No wonder they call this the bird of the Pharaohs. I can see why now. Just move them right on here. And then, of course, I can decorate them with, again, a little touch of that red and golden bell pepper. They're going to really, really be nice. Isn't that a beautiful dish? The Guinea Fowl with the dirty rice of the Myrtles Plantation in St. Francisville. Just a beautiful dish for any holiday table. Now, what would I serve with this? Well, let's take a look at a couple of the dishes. This is that famous oleander pound cake. This is the pound cake that would have been poisoned with those leaves. Of course, I left the poison out. We can, eat it that way instead. And look at the muffins. This is a sweet potato muffin. You know how much we like sweet potatoes here, and these little muffins are served in the place of bread at the Myrtles Plantation. Really, really nice. Okay, well, I told you my good buddy Irv Daniel was coming to visit, my sweet potato neighbor from the Myrtles. Hey, guy, come on in.
You were teasing me the other day about I couldn't make candy out of sweet potatoes. Well, I brought you some.
This is sweet potato candy,
It
huh?
sure is.
Now, it looks like fudge, huh? It almost looks like a nice piece of fudge.
We start off with kind of like a praline and add the sweet potatoes to it.
Oh, boy, it looks great. I'm going to definitely have to try these. Well, you weren't kidding me. I thought you were.
I want your opinion on that.
Hey, what do you have here?
Well, we're going to talk about that a little later on.
That's one of those old measuring sticks it looked like. Boy, that's an interesting piece. I hadn't seen that for years. When I was over at your house talking about the sweet potato candy the other day, you were telling me about your recipe for sweet potato pie. And I said, I've eaten 100 sweet potato pies, and they're all good. And you said, no, you have to try mine. And I have to say, that had to be the best sweet potato pie I've ever tasted, and I mean that.
Appreciate
and I
that.
have it here, and I decided today to put you on the spot. I want to share this recipe because it's so good. What I did, you told me to go ahead and boil the sweet potatoes in just enough water after they peeled and cubed to go ahead and just steam them and let all the water boil out, right?
Well, you boil it down so those sugars and flavors that go in that water, you want to boil it down so you get them back into the sweet potatoes before you make the pie.
And then why don't you stir that up? You see that one's boiled. You can mash it. You want to end up with 2 cups of sweet potato. And I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle in about a half a cup of sugar, about a 1/4 cup of melted butter. Now, of course, if they're hot right out of the pan, you can put in a block of butter.
It'll just melt it together and be ready to go.
And then a little bit flour here and a touch of vanilla. And that's all other than a little bit lemon, and I want to let me steal this right here from you. This is an antique lemon juicer, and I'm going to just squeeze the juice of 1/2 lemon down into it, and that's basically all you need. Now, you would put this into a pie shell, and that pie shell, we would bake it for about 350 degrees for a half hour to 45 minutes.
Well, it'll take about an hour, really, to make it set.
And I tell you what, look at what it's now. Why don't you go ahead and show everybody what that looks like, that little pie right there. And I'm going to dust a little sugar on top of it. Isn't that gorgeous? Let me put a little sugar on top of that pie. 1 hour in the oven. This thing is fantastic, and it really is. You've got a great pie recipe there.
Thank you. Well, you did a great job putting that together.
I appreciate it, too. Have a seat right here. Let's chat a little bit about the Myrtles. I know you live right next door, and I have to ask you, have you ever looked over that fence and saw a ghost by any chance?
Well, I tell you, ever since I was a little kid, I've been hearing them talk about those old ghosts in the house. But I hadn't seen a ghost, but I can understand how you would be suspicious of a ghost. Those old big houses, they heat up in the day, and late at night they start cooling down, and they creep. And if you're sitting in the house and the electricity is off or it's real quiet, you can hear those noises up in the attic, and sometimes you're really not sure about whether that's creeping or not.
You know, if somebody was to ask you, the Myrtles being right there on the highway, people coming from all over the world to see it, and people say the busiest day of the year there is Halloween night. Would you agree with that?
I sure would. The traffic's backed up. They have to get the city police to help park the cars. Lots of traffic in and out, and people lined up to see if they can see that ghost.
You never saw it yet, huh?
I hadn't seen him yet.
Now, you know, let's talk about this stick for a minute. Let's talk about sweet potatoes. You told me all I need to get into the sweet potato business is this and a pile of money, right?
A big pile of money, John, and this stick.
Now, I have to share about this. You showed me this earlier. This stick was used by the early planters ever since the Civil War, and it was used with this little tip right here to actually push. Let me see, you've got a sweet potato plant here.
One right
to
there.
actually push that plant down into the ground, and the father would come along, the mother would drop the plants, and they would push it into the ground with this stick. The kids would water the potatoes. So really, this was the technology of the day to plant.
It was fairly efficient at the time. It was fella could plant 12,000 of those plants in a day, which would be an acre, and so that was getting over some ground.
Tell me the difference between a sweet potato and a yam. Everybody asks me what is Cajun and Creole. You tell me what's a sweet potato and a yam.
In the United States, we incorrectly call sweet potatoes yams, and really, if you go to the supermarket and ask for yams, you're going to get sweet potatoes. But it started out about 1950. Louisiana farmers and LSU had developed a wonderful new sweet potato variety, and it was so much better than what the other states were growing that they wanted to give it a unique name so that we would take advantage of this higher quality in the marketplace. And the promotion was very successful, and now everybody wants to call their sweet potatoes yams.
Well, I know we eat a lot of yams here and sweet potatoes, but I understand that today we produce less sweet potatoes in Louisiana than just about anywhere else in the country, but yet at one time we were the largest sweet potato producer in the world. Why do we eat less potatoes today?
Well, in Louisiana, we're like the #2 state in America. But times have changed. Back in the earlier days, like Civil War days on up into 1900 or so, sweet potatoes were the staple of the South. Everybody in the rural part of the South would grow their own sweet potatoes, and they would use it to feed their family, and they would use it to feed their livestock. And it stored real well, and it was a valuable source of beta-carotene through the winter. But as the transportation systems got better and it started growing Irish potatoes in other cooler parts of the country and rice in some parts of the country, people started to substitute that starch diet with these other starches. And so sweet potatoes really got to be kind of known as a poor man's crop. And it really wasn't fair because it's a wonderful vegetable.
Now, you were telling me about the curing process, that not all sweet potatoes are cured, but it's the curing process that makes them great.
It is. The sweet potato, when it first comes out of the ground, we call it green, and it's a delicious product, but it takes on a whole new flavor and a new dimension if we can kiln dry it. And we put this potato in these special rooms that are like a sauna. They're hot and moist, and that converts the starches to sugars in that potato. And when you bake that kiln dried potato, it has that rich flavor, and it bakes down to a little puddle of syrup.
So you're saying then it would be better to slow bake that potato in an oven rather than to zap it in a microwave for 5 minutes?
Well, it takes about an hour of 400 degrees to really caramelize those sugars and develop that full flavor. Now, if you cook it in a microwave, you're going to have a cooked sweet potato, and that's fine. But it's really not to the level of flavor that you'd get if you took the time to bake it.
Well, you know, I remember as a young kid coming in from school, and sitting on top of the stove was a big platter full of baked sweet potatoes with the syrup running all over, and I'll never forget that flavor as long as I live, because that was the candy, I guess, of all of us. And when I was over at your house the other day and walked in and saw that big platter of Beauregard,
we eat a lot of sweet potatoes.
Beauregard yams, I knew I was back in heaven. Thank you so much for coming to visit with us today and bringing the stick. And y'all all come back again and see us as we continue to cook up more of these great Taste of Louisiana. We're going to eat candy here, sweet potato candy.
Yeah, I want you to tell me.
Funding for this program was provided in part by Bruce Foods Corporation, makers of Bruce's Yams and other distinctive Louisiana-style food products. Additional funding is provided by the Louisiana Department of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism, Gumbo, Etouffee, Jambalaya, Beignet. Come pass a good time in Louisiana and say things you've never seen before.
Chef John Folse's Plantation Celebrations, Recipes from Our Louisiana Mansions, is a full-color 335-page book containing food history, recipes, and over 150 photographs from these southern landmarks. For your copy, send a check or money order for $28.50 to Louisiana Public Broadcasting, 7860 Anselmo Lane, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 70810. Or use your credit card by calling toll-free 1-800-973-7246.